Jordan and Gerald. What makes this confrontation unavoidable? Was it predictable? What earlier events foreshadowed this final conflict? Did Jordan have any redeeming qualities, and was it necessary for Jordan to die?
Well, I thought that, I'll just start with the final conflict. I thought that the final conflict was kind of predictable, but I didn't think it was avoidable. I thought it had to happen because, Gerald and Jordan just hated each other so much that one of them had to do something and one of them had to go away. So I don't think it was unavoidable, and I thought that the outcome wasn't very surprising.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jordan did have to die just because, when Gerald got him to be sent away, he eventually came back and, one of them had to die, and I'm glad it was Jordan.
I also think that it was unavoidable because I guess time went on, Gerald grew up and got a lot bigger and stronger, was more able to defend himself with Angel. And you can see throughout the book that he was always super mad at Jordan, but he never does anything because he knows he'll get hurt. So I feel like it was inevitable that he would fight him once he gets big enough.
Yeah, I think it was really unavoidable for him to make this fight because it kind of built up to this entire confrontation. They kept having little fights, but Gerald kept having to back down. So now that finally that he's big enough to actually fight back, they had this huge major brawl, and then he ended up coming out on top. And throughout the book, they kind of foreshadowed that it was going to happen anyways. There's a quote in chapter 20 that's a final showdown with Jordan had to come, and Gerald thought that or said that or whatever. So it was it was pretty obvious that it was going to happen.
Yeah, it was obvious that this was going to go down. I mean, they chose not to call the cops the second time around, and they didn't want the cops involved. So it was obvious now that Gerald is old enough and big enough to handle the situation himself that he was most likely going to fight Jordan. Although I don't think Jordan deserved, I don't know if he deserved to die. It wasn't necessary that he died. I mean, he could have gone back to jail if something could have happened with him. I don't think he needed to die.
Yeah, I agree with Ellen. I think that it's really never necessary for someone to die. He should have sat in prison and thought about what he actually did. That way. No.
I feel he kind of did deserve to die, or it was necessary because, when he went to jail and he came back out, he just feels good for, a little bit. But then, when the fire was happening and stuff, he just tried to abuse Angel, so, it showed that he's not changing.
That's a good point. It said if Jordan had any redeeming qualities, he never really did anything nice for anyone except for when he came out of prison, but that was more so just to so he didn't get in trouble again, because when it came down to it, he still had tried to abuse Angel and still beat up Gerald, so.
I have to agree with what Jill said because Angel, Ellen, and Paige, they all said that it was predictable, which it was, because like Chloe, I had a quote from chapter 17 and it said when Jordan returned, they were now men now and they shaked each other's hand, and Jordan was shake my hand, we're men, so it was men. So by him saying that, it's Jordan realizing that Gerald's older now, so grown up. So clearly now there's no real difference between them. He's not 12 and little. He can he can defend himself now and defend Angel. So I thought that was the most predictable part of it. And then I also felt it was necessary for Jordan to die because he, like Joe said, did nothing for anyone. He wasn't really kind. He didn't express any feelings for his daughter or anyone around him.
I agree. I think he should die. Just because, I feel even if he went to jail, he would have just, before when he came back, after he went to jail, I feel Monique was, she wasn't strong enough to, get him out of her life. She would have just kept letting it happen because she, really couldn't get away from him because he was abusive to her and the kids, and I feel she just wouldn't have ever been strong enough to leave him.
To what Marion said, she think that it was predictable Jordan was acting nicer. And I think that was an example of calm before the storm. And I think he did have to die because in order for Gerald and Angel and Monique to move on, something needed to happen.
I think it was necessary for him to die so that Monique could finally realize how awful he truly was. I remember Alex said yesterday that it was since he's dead, so she Monique didn't have anything to be scared of anymore, so she can admit to herself that he was a really bad person.
I don't think that's true, just because throughout the whole thing, Gerald's been raised by love and care, and so when it comes to the end,
like, I would have liked it if at least he saved, or came back to save Jordan, proving to him that he was a bigger man, saying, hey, I'm not like you, I'm not gonna be abusive, I'm not gonna be controlling, I'm gonna be the one people lean on for help. And even though I don't like you, I'm still gonna help you. And I would have thought that would have had a bigger impact if he like had some sort of like, if somehow you heard Jordan say I need help or something like that and came back. I would have thought that would be a better ending, because when the cops would have come and then arrested Jordan, then Jordan would have like, since he was drunk, he probably would have cried about it. He could have been like emotional, saying like, I like would have spilled about his past, and he could understand his problems. Because like Jordan wasn't probably, he was raised that way. Because when he heard Mr. Harry speaking about like, you know, the grandparents when they were taking care of Angel, because Monique was still in jail, the grandparents were still rough to Angel, so it wasn't his fault. He was raised that way.
Well, I think the only problem with that is like Gerald didn't know that Jordan was like on the ground. Like the only time he knew that was like when the police officer is saying like, oh, was Jordan like in there with you? And he's like, yeah, he left, and they're like, he's dead or whatever. So like Gerald had no idea that like Gerald was dead on the ground. Like he didn't realize that that's what he tripped over until someone told him. Even then, Gerald wouldn't have been in the position to like go save him, because I mean, he heavy like intake of like smoke and hearing Angel and the cut on his head, like he probably was pretty knocked out. But I think it was necessary for Jordan to die, because like talk about like cycles of abuse, and like it's really hard to break them. And Monique definitely wasn't strong enough, especially with, like all the pills she was taking and like substance abuses. I think Jordan was like another substance for her. Like she got abused, she abused him, like she wasn't strong enough to get away from that.
I agree with Jay. I think that even if Jordan would have known that that was, or if Gerald would have known that that was Jordan, I don't think he would have tried to save him, because I think that he was more focused on getting himself and Angel out of there. I think that was his number one priority, to make sure they were safe. And I think he was just bitter towards Jordan of all the bad things he's done, so I think it would have been easier for him to leave Jordan than to come back and try to save him.
2-minute warning.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there would have been any closure. I feel like Gerald and Angel just would have been scared that he was gonna come out of jail again, because he like did it once, and I feel like he could possibly get on parole again.
Well, because he wasn't on parole, it was the 6 to 10 years, and then if he did go to jail, he would have been released. But I was saying, like, if the scenario, like, he heard, like, Jordan just say, like, instead of falling and then dying, he like tripped, like, he fell and he was just unconscious. Like, the reason, and then you said closure as well. I mean, it would have been more closure if Jordan, like, confessed, like, what his life was more like about, and you'd be in jail for longer,
Yeah.
especially because this is the second time doing that.
Also, like, usually, like, sexual, like, molestation victims always, like, deal with that for the rest of their life, and then Jordan just gets to, like, die and not really have a consequence besides the first time. And, like, if he would have sat in jail, like, he would have a consequence too, besides just dying.
And like if you went to jail, it'd be for a lot longer.
Yeah.
And like if you had like 10 years out of life, both Angel and Gerald would probably be like, oh, the hell is doing their own thing. But then Jordan would like have the opportunity to do it again. That'd be more interesting.
Plus, Jordan wouldn't have a reason to go back to his kids. Like, his kids have no reason to see him now. So by the time he gets out, they have no obligation to see him. Like, he'd have to go find him themselves, but by then, they'd probably be way stronger. Because Angel was fit, because remember when he was trying to grab Angel, it said that Angel was stronger than Jordan. It seemed like Jordan was just too strong for her, but she was getting stronger herself.
But still, wouldn't you
Last
be
comment.
but like, wouldn't you still be uneasy thinking about like this person that was horrible to me is still alive and is still out there somewhere, and that he could do it to someone else?
I would feel better if somebody, like, instead of them being dead, he was sitting in a place rotting. Just because it's like, or not really rotting, just in his own guilt and what he has to deal with. Especially if your child wants to, you have to deal with more stuff in prison.
Alright, we're gonna move on to the next question.